So yeah, we just wanted to start tonight by just saying that we are grateful to be gathered on the ancestral unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, where I hope we are all actively learning and unlearning. And tonight we're promoting a lot of learning, I hope. I hope that each of you will take away something that you didn't know when you came in the door. So we're, learning and unlearning together.
So our agenda for the night, so we're going to have introductions. We're going to go over what our objectives are for the night, the basics of public relations, which is what Jen is an expert in. We're going to walk through a PR strategy for Lavoh, which is my brand that I launched last month. So you guys will get to see a little bit of a workshop of what that looks like. We're going to talk about sharing your story, also creating authentic social media content, and lastly, just talking about connecting and making connections in the room, because everyone in here has an awesome story, has a business, has something that they're excited that they're working on. And the point of tonight is just to get together and learn from one another and make some awesome connections in the room.
Yeah, so I'm Jen. It's funny, when we were starting to put this together, Eliza said, how long have you been doing PR for? And I said, 13 years. And then I checked my LinkedIn profile. It turns out I've been doing PR for 19 years. I started when I was 4. So yeah, I've done, so my PR journey kind of started in a very corporate place. I started in real estate, then I moved into architecture, and I worked with BC Lottery for a little bit, doing some PR for them. After I left that role, I kind of fell into supporting small businesses. And over the last however many years, I've worked with a lot of big businesses and a lot of small businesses, and I love working with the small businesses. And I'm getting to a point in my career where I want to work with more small businesses and try to be accessible. And I've noticed a couple of things. The first thing I've really noticed, which is why we're going to start with it, is the PR is sort of confusing. People are like, is it marketing? Is it branding? What is it really? And then the second thing is that it's not cheap to go with a big agency. It costs a lot of money. And so I try to be that kind of in-between person, which has taken me some really, really interesting places. But the conversation we're about to have, I've had 100 times over coffee, and I'm really excited to have it in this room.
My name is Eliza, and I was in the hair industry for the first 15 years of my career. I built up my brand. I had 4 salon locations, and I just sold everything in November. And so I just launched a new company last month called Lavoh, which you'll learn a little bit about. And Jen and I met at actually an event that Christina was hosting, and Jen reached out for coffee with me afterwards, and we just sat. I think we talked for like 2 or 3 hours, and then we're like, crap, we gotta go. But it was just so interesting as from an entrepreneurial side, just learning what Jen does. And again, I think as entrepreneurs or small businesses, it can often feel like PR is out of our reach. It's only for giant corporations. But just speaking with Jen, learning like there's so many things that we can be doing to share our story and get our story out there. And so I was like, okay, well, if this is something that I feel like I desperately need and want to learn, there's got to be other entrepreneurs out there that want to learn this too. So that's kind of how this evening came about. And so as we've been putting this together, I feel like I've been learning a lot already. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, little side note, my computer, I thought I was going to be able to reach it to click it myself. So Melissa's doing the clicking for me, but I'm not just checking my Instagram. I'm looking at the slides on here. So if you're wondering what I'm doing on my phone, so yeah, okay, there we go. Next slide. Thank you.
Yeah. So tonight, we wanted to keep the objectives really high. I would love if everyone here learns something and you walk away and go like, okay, I can apply that. And 2 things. We want to give you some tips that you can literally apply to your business tomorrow, that you can walk out of here and sort of start that. But also, I think it's about the long game when it comes to PR. You can do a short campaign and get some success from that, but I think it's about setting your business up to be a storytelling business. So we want you to learn. We want to pull some strategy out for your business and for Eliza's business. And as she said, we want to connect, because so much of PR, like what you did when you walked in the store, is PR. public relations. You're talking to the public. Hopefully some of you got an opportunity in the last half hour to talk about your business and learn about someone else's. That's PR. So, sometimes it can be hard to talk about your business and to kind of, toot your own horn. But, we've got some strategies to hopefully help you do that. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much time with this, but what is PR? Well, it's different to branding and marketing for sure. It's earned and owned. So PR can be, like I said, you walking in this room, talking to people, saying, oh, what do you do? This is my business. And saying, how can we, is there an opportunity to collaborate and support one another? It can also be earned, which is traditional sort of PR. You talk to somebody on TV, or you talk to a newspaper, or you get featured in a magazine. Newer PR is obviously digital media, blogs, podcasts are having a season right now. I think we all know that. And online publications, and kind of like zines used to be, kind of moving into digital publications. You can spend money on PR. Influencers have kind of changed that game, and there's lots of ways to work with influencers. Sometimes that is earned. You send them a product, they review it, you give a service to them, they stay in an Airbnb, they talk about it, that kind of thing. Product reviews, they come to your event. If you're having like a fundraiser or something, sometimes you invite people and you get PR that way. And then sponsored media. And this is, coming up a lot as media budgets get slashed. Obviously, publications need to make money. They're getting less advertising. So a lot of them have moved to a sponsored media platform, which is places like, a lot of them, but like Daily Hive, a lot of what you read there. If you see a story about a new restaurant opening and it's just a story about one restaurant, they've probably paid for that. And there's nothing wrong with that either. And you can be very strategic with those, with that messaging, because when you have a sponsored media coverage, you own it, right? You get to edit it before it goes live. Whereas if it's earned media and they go to your restaurant, you don't always get to pick what they say about your restaurant. So a couple other types of PR is reactive. So if something's gone wrong, you can hire PR to kind of squash a story or to change a narrative. We call that kind of reactive, and a lot of oil and gas and those kind of companies have that reactive model.
You gotta tell them that you were the PR person for the barge.
I did the PR for the barge that hit English Bay, and I said to my client, we could do so many fun things with this. Like we could name the barge, we could take the panels of the barge and do cool things. And they said, your job is to squash every story. Write statements, issue statements. We don't want any coverage. It's like, okay, that's not very fun. But
it was hilarious that the barge had their own PR person.
If you think about it, it had to. There was a lot of stories about that. There was a lot of people looking for statements. And so that all kind of got funneled to me. And, there was about 17 of us who had to approve one statement, and then that would just kind of get issued. That was a really fun job, but it was, but it could have been funner. But anyway, so yeah, some of it is reactive. A lot of celebrities or people will have a reactive PR person and a reactive strategy. Community relations for sure. Developers they do public consultation. That's PR. When you're inviting someone in, you're telling them about your project, you're getting their opinion. That's PR as well. Events are PR. Sponsorships, being a vendor at an event, anywhere your brand is sort of showing up, that's PR. A lot of it is managing your reputation and engaging your stakeholders. And we could talk about a lot of this for longer, but we won't. Next slide, please. But at the end of the day, it is about relationships. People buy from people they like, and people want to work with people that they like. So it really is all about events in real life. You get an opportunity today here to talk about your brand, and maybe somebody will then turn around tomorrow and buy something from your brand because they met you and they liked you. And maybe they don't need your product, maybe they don't even want your product, but they liked you. Emails and social media, obviously. I think commenting, liking, engaging, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but showing that your brand is showing up in community can go a really long way. Okay. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're just kind of go through a process that I would do with a new client with Lavoh. So Eliza's going to sort of share about her brand based on some questions and stuff that I'll ask, and then we'll do a strategy.
Awesome. She can go to
Yeah, and I'm going to take some notes.
So the strategy, we're going to look at a product overview. Jen's going to pull out some like stories that she sees that I could go for with my brand, audiences and outlets that she thinks would work well for me, and then help figure out what a pitch would be. Melissa, you can go to the next slide. All right, so my brand is Lavoh. It is a line of makeup remover face cloths. They're eco-friendly and they're reusable, and they replace about 3 years worth of disposable products. So it's a product that I love and that I was like telling all my friends about before I started my own brand. And you can go to the next slide. So you can see there's a product there. And yeah, it's something, like I said earlier, I was in the hair industry for 15 years, the service-based industry, made it through COVID with 4 locations and 30 employees, then had 2 babies in 2 years with no maternity leave, and I burnt out hard. But I am an entrepreneur through and through and through. And so I knew that when I wanted to do my next business, I wanted to do something that didn't require 30 employees right away, something that I could do from home, and something that didn't require a brick and mortar space because I was tired of having my windows smashed. Melissa owns a salon, she knows.
But my question for you is why not a hair product?
So I think for me, owning salons, I've constantly seen like people try and reinvent the wheel with hair products over and over and over again. It's a market that is so saturated. Every celebrity now has a hairline. And so I'm like, little old me in Vancouver, trying to go up against like L'Oreal or these like conglomerates that are global companies. I'm like, what do I have that's going to cut through the noise? And so I, in the past, had thought about doing a hair product. But for me, I was like, I just felt like it was just going to be more just noise. It wasn't really filling a need. And so when I discovered makeup remover face cloths, I was literally telling everyone about them because they work, they're easy, it's so much less waste. And for me, it just simplified my routine so much. I didn't want to add like another step. I'm like, I've got a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. I need something that's fast and that works and that I will actually use. So I started talking to people, and everyone I talked to, nobody had heard of this before, which kind of was a little bit of a light bulb moment. I was like, okay, here's a problem and a solution, and there's not many other people that are doing this or that know about it. And it's also something that I genuinely am stoked on this product.
You had a face cloth that did what you wanted it to do, and why not just use that brand? Why make your
own? Because I wanted to do it better.
Okay. And what did you want to do better?
So there were a couple brands out there. Like I said, most people haven't heard of them. The only ones I could come across came in really, really juvenile colors. So Barbie pink, like the color of the napkins, or Barney purple. The branding I did not love. It was not something that I was excited to give as a gift. There's so many aesthetically beautiful brands out there, and I was like, why is nobody taking this awesome product and also making it beautiful, packaging it in a way that I want to buy it and I want to give it as a gift to friends. And I just couldn't find that. And then when I really started getting technical and I started pulling them out and looking at them and looking at the sewing quality and being like, oh my gosh, the quality of these are really kind of janky. They're not really well made. I'm like, okay, so there's an opportunity for me to do this and do it better. I didn't feel like I was adding kind of to the noise of another hair product or something like that. So that's kind of where I got the idea. I got the idea on my balcony. Rob and I were sitting on my balcony last summer, and I wrote an entire business plan on my phone, which is still on my phone. And then we launched last month.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So janky is bad.
Janky? Yeah.
I used that, I was like, janky, okay.
It's just very wobbly, poorly. So
And the brand that you had been using, which we don't have to name, what was their background? Do you know?
Their background, I had to dive really, 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 really deep, like go way down all these like rabbit holes to try and find the founder story. And that kind of got lost in the shuffle, but it was founded by a single female. But since then it has sold, and then bigger and bigger companies have bought it. So they've kind of lost their founder story, and it kind of then just became kind of a faceless Amazon brand.
Okay. So you thought you could do it better than...
I thought I could do it better. I thought I could definitely make it prettier. I wanted to make something that, like I said, I'd be excited to give as a gift. I could see it on shelves that maybe the other ones that I've seen aren't on. And then, quality wise, I was like, I can do this better.
And just so I'm super clear, you can use it on kids?
You can use it on kids.
And it works?
And it works. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And so actually another little piece to that is my sister, thankfully, she went to every online blog she could find where the competitors were sold and read all the negative comments and read what people were frustrated by. So I took those, and a lot of them were like, oh, they fall off the hook. There's no hanging hooks. We added a hanging hook. A lot of them were like, the colors, why don't they come in this or that? Or the sizes, why don't they come in packages of 5 minis and this and that? So we kind of took what clients were already saying about this product and then tried to address that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to talk about these questions, where, like, we'll roll into your audience next. Where do you want people talking about this brand?
I want people to be telling their friends. I think, owning salons for so many years and being a hairstylist, I know the power of word of mouth. And when I'm stoked on a brand or I'm stoked on something that I found that has solved a problem, I tell everyone in my life about it, whether they want to hear it or not. So I definitely think, I think I was saying this to you yesterday when we were going over this, that there's so many cosmetic brands. People are always talking about what we're putting on our face, and nobody's really talking about how we take it off, because it's not as sexy as like beautiful eyeshadow. You're like, nobody's talking about makeup wipes because it's just like a means to an end.
Yeah.
So I want people to be talking about it in spaces where people are trying to reduce their waste, because it does reduce so much waste. Moms, because it literally makes your life easier. And when you are dead tired at the end of the day and don't want to take your makeup off, if you can find something that like makes your life easier, I want moms to be talking about it. And I would love, I'd love to kind of get included in some kind of like gift guides or, fashion magazines along kind of with cosmetic products, because I think it complements so many other products, because most people, like almost everyone in this room, we have something on our face. Everyone needs to take it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can probably go to the next one now. Okay. We kind of went into this, but why should people care about this brand? Why do you want people to care?
I want people to care because I genuinely want to make people's lives easier. Again, from my background in the salon industry, it was often difficult when your suppliers are getting you to bring in new products all the time. And sometimes, like, as stylists, we're like, but people don't actually need this. You just, like, the line is now 30 products, and I'm actually confused as to why I should be selling this. So for me, I feel like the reason why I want people to care is because it simplifies your life, and it's not making you feel like, oh, I have to do another thing. To me, it's simplifying, and it works.
And you are a big part of your branding, from what
I'm a big part of my branding, yeah.
And why did you make that choice?
I think, and we'll talk about this when we go over the social media part at the end, but I think from years of, building a clientele as a hairstylist and then doing social media, it's really cool how you build this like community of, like, we call them like raving fans. Like, I have, like, when on launch day, I swear like 30% of the orders were from like my old clients that I haven't done hair since 2020, but they will still support me in everything that I do. And so I feel like there are other faceless brands out there, and I was like, this is another way that I could differentiate myself, is like being a part of the story. And you know, I'm at a size right now where if you want to DM me and ask me a question about how to wash the product or what to do with it, you can talk to a real human. So I think that's why I want to be a part of it as well. Just to like, I already have this amazing group of, you know, this amazing community of people that want to support me in what I do. So I'm like, why wouldn't I, you know?
And that was lacking in the other brand.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, okay. Yeah, so I just put on there like a reminder. So when you're talking about your stories, because that's what PR is basically. Key messages are for marketing, and stories are for PR. So Eliza kind of shared her story of how she got started, which is, I think, a really interesting story. And I've kind of picked out some pitch angles that my kind of PR brain is jumping to. Yeah, I think we can go to the next one now. I think next is audience. Yeah. So, I mean, you guys can all read, but who is buying your product or service? And what's their kind of like, are you an accessible product? Are you a luxury product? What are their interests and where do they consume media? And also, like, who do they trust and do they trust you?
Right. So who is buying my product, I would say, is females between the age of 25 and 50 who are conscious about what they're putting on their face, also conscious about the environment, because we do have that sustainability aspect. Also moms. So that middle photo is a little girl taking off a face paint. One of my clients or one of my customers of Lavoh sent that to me and was like, this takes off face paint like amazingly well. And I had her permission to put that photo up there of her daughter. And then lastly is drag queens and artists. I originally wanted to call the brand I Like Her, because it was kind of in like a little nod to when my daughter's in the bathroom with me and taking off my makeup, and I always want to be like speaking positively to myself and saying like, I like what I see in the mirror. But I was afraid about gendering the product because I really saw an opportunity for working with performers, specifically drag artists, and it does take their makeup off, which is amazing. Because I was a little nervous that the makeup would be too intense, but it works. So those are kind of like the three
price point.
The price point. So one cloth is $25.
Okay.
And it lasts for about 3 to 5 years, depending on how long you wash it. Which, if you compare, kind of what I was comparing that to was the average package of disposable wipes is about $17 to $20. And so one cloth is replacing about 140 packages of that. So, you know, I have had some feedback of like $25 for one face cloth. But I'm like, but if you're considering what you're spending on disposable products in a 3-year span, that's kind of how I came to that number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so age, gender, income, we've done that. And what other interests does your audience have? Like, what else are they buying?
I think that they're buying cosmetics, they're buying good skincare, they're wearing makeup on a daily basis. And then from an aesthetic perspective, they like products that are beautifully packaged, that are like thought through. And one of the biggest compliments I had recently was somebody was like, oh, this reminds me of Bloom lattes. And I was like, yeah. You know, because Bloom is latte powder, but it's packaged so beautifully. So that was a really huge compliment to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's a beautiful brand. And I mean, just for looking at your social, I would suggest that you are building their trust by sharing pictures like these ones of people using your product. And you also have some testimonials up there of people using the product.
Yeah.
So they trust you, and ideally people buy your product and then they tell their friends.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to go hard at getting user-generated content from the beginning, because a big piece of what I have to do right now is educate people on the product, because a lot of people haven't heard of it. So I'm like, what a better way to do that than to have real live people use it on camera, take their makeup off, because I also was like, it can't just be me talking about it, because I wanted to build that trust piece by having other people talk about it as well.
Yeah. And then in terms of media, what media would you like to see Lavoh in?
Ooh. I mean, I think it would be I always think it would be really cool to see it in print, like in a Elle magazine or something like that. Whether that actually converts to clients, I just think it's so cool when you go to a website and it's like as seen in, and then it's like scrolling all like the magazine. It just like feels like it adds a level of legitimacy.
Yeah.
But honestly, really anything online. I know print is really cool, but anything online that can help, with the SEO.
Yeah.
So that's
big.
That's big.
Yeah. So what are the stories and who's going to tell them? So we kind of haven't gone through the whole thing, but when I bring on a new client, I have like 3 pages of questions that I go through with them, and we have lots of conversations, and I try to ask a bunch of like little questions. So what I'm kind of encouraging you guys to do is you could do this in pairs, is tell your story and ask those questions. And Eliza made a good point the other day. She said that she's going through kind of her FAQs of what people are asking her and pulling stories out of those. But from what I've heard and what I know from kind of going through her social and her website, I would kind of, from a PR perspective, I would break this into 4 pitches. And so I see the first one as being sustainability, because that's green products. And I kind of don't like using that greenwashing language, but it is what it is. So what I would do there is, from like me as the PR person, I would do some research into some statistics and try to find out. We were talking about this. I'm like, is there any statistics for the amount of cotton balls and face wipes in landfill? And I mean, we probably have to dig around, but I would love to try to find some kind of statistic, even about the amount of beauty products in landfill, because publications love statistics. If there's any way that you can grab a statistic around your brand, they love that. And green publications like Alive is sort of a more local one. And then there's lots and lots of online ones. And also when you're looking at influencers, a lot of influencers that focus on like sustainable lifestyle and things like that. A lot of them do have very elevated, beautiful brands. Also people that tend to be focused on sustainability tend to be happy to spend a little bit more. That kind of all kind of goes together. So sustainability would be my first story. My second story would be the kind of obvious one, beauty, wellness, lifestyle, women, like you said, Elle magazine, Chatelaine, those, Vita, those kind of beauty, wellness. And we'll talk a little bit more about how I might approach some of those, because going to Chatelaine and saying like, ooh, this beautiful makeup remover, they kind of go like, well, here's our sponsored rate. Yeah. And I get a lot of that when I pitch individual brands, especially products. They come back with the rate sheet. So you kind of have to know how to like get around the rate sheet. I hear, and I mean, I'm biased. I think there aren't enough female business stories out there. So I hear a business story. I would be pitching you to BC Business, like Business in Vancouver, all those kinds of places, Maclean's. Because you have a business story. You took a need that you had and created a business out of it. You're also one person. I think the manufacturing story is always very interesting, because your product's made overseas. Yeah, but designed here. Yeah. And then made overseas. I would love to like dig into that process of like, well, how did you figure out how to make it? Because you're not a textiles expert, right? So who did you talk to? How did you learn that? And maybe share that kind of story about, you have an idea, but then you want to learn those manufacturing pieces, because a lot of women don't talk about things like that. And then my fourth pitch that I would work on with you is the parenting story. Parenting media is huge. Parents consume media, parents love products. And what I kind of heard and jotted down is like, it's safe, it's soft, and it's quick, and it's sustainable. So those are kind of great things for parents. The other thing I was kind of thinking is it's a product you can share with your kids. Because lots of times if I buy a beauty product, that's mine and you have your thing. Right. But like if it's something where I can take their sunscreen off and rinse it and then take my makeup off, like it's nice to be able to have something in your bathroom that is actually applicable to everyone in your family. And then I kind of jotted down, there's a meme about this and I wish I could remember what it was, but like something about what reading Cosmo growing up, I thought going from day to night would be like a bigger part of my life than it is. And I was thinking about what you said. Has anyone seen that meme? Yeah. So what you were talking about is like, because they're like from day to night, like put a necklace on, woo. and what you sort of said is we talk about from going day to night, but we never talk about going to bed. Like we never talk about the end of the night. Like you come home and like that's. So I wrote down bedtime routine, because like adults and their bedtime routine, and we talk a lot about putting things on, but we don't talk so much about taking things off. And like skincare, people spend so much money on skincare and talk about skincare, what they're putting on. But like, if you don't have a clean face to begin with, none of your beautiful skincare is going to do any good. What else did I write down here? Oh, I just wrote down. So when we talk about like beauty and wellness and lifestyle magazines, what I always encourage and what I do for a pitch is try to find some complementary products. And the other thing I wanted to mention is like when you're pitching some digital publications, I always look for the days as like an anchor for the pitch. So June 14th was International Bath Day, which I Googled. So if we were working together, given the timeline, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, I would probably in May pitch one of these beauty, wellness, women's publications and say, hey, International Bath Day is coming up June 14th. I was thinking a roundup of like your perfect bath, and I would find like a comparable complimentary bubble bath. I think a scrunchie would be a nice partner for you. Here's the face cloth, and you sort of pitch it in the way that like Lavoh is the leader, and maybe you can mention some of those other brands, or maybe you just say products. Another day in my Googling, June 18th, which I believe is tomorrow, we should all celebrate this, International Splurge Day. So this works for any business, really. Like, splurge on yourself. And when you use those hashtags, I mean, Eliza's the social media expert, but those hashtags can work. And then also sometimes a publication, we'll get into this more, but publications need content as much as you want to give it. So if you can say, hey, June 18th is International Splurge Day, here are some things that I think people could splurge on. A lot of them will go, yeah, that's easy. I'm going to do that. June 21st is International Selfie Day, but I wanted to mention that one because that would, again, work for kind of any brand. That's also National Indigenous Peoples Day. So you kind of want to be careful of some of these days. You don't want to be out there celebrating National Selfie Day when other brands are talking about National Indigenous Peoples Day, because that might not go over well. And just for your info, June 26th, Beautician's Day. So there you go. So to be kind of connecting those things. So I think, and then who's going to tell them? You know what? We kind of chat about that a little bit further. So let's go to the next one. Yes. So who's going to tell them, and who are your targets? So from the 4 stories that I've pulled, sustainability, beauty, business, and parenting are kind of the 4. So somebody's late. That's okay. Lateness is welcome. So from those 4, so what I would do after this conversation that we've had is go away and kind of write these 4 stories. And then I would think about who our targets are. So what I would do is I would make 4 media lists, and I would think about those types of media that we talked about before. So traditional media, always, radio, TV, newspapers, and magazines, and make a list of those 4 under the 4 categories. And then in those publications, you think about who's going to write that story. So then I think you go back to your audience. If you're pitching a business story to Business in Vancouver, BC Business, Maclean's Magazine, Globe and Mail, let's find a business reporter who falls into your audience. Like someone who's a woman between 25 and 50 who probably wears makeup. A good way to find who is writing about the things that you want to talk about, I always will pick the headline that I want and I Google it. Like I will pick the headline that I want for Lavoh, and I'll start at like best face removing face cloth, or makeup removing face cloth, not face removing. No, you need your face. And Google it just to sort of see what comes up. Has this story been told? and then pick another like a roundup, best bath products or best space cloth things, and just sort of keep throwing these into Google and see who's talking about them, because maybe somebody wrote an article 4 years ago. So then you can go back to them and say, hey, you wrote this article 4 years ago. I thought it might be time for an update, and I don't know if you've heard about Lavoh. And then you sort of tell your beauty and wellness story.
Perfect related. Do you have any tips specifically on to like find emails of the people that you want to pitch?
Great question.
Because before I met you and I was trying to DIY this myself, I was really struggling to find emails.
Yeah. So a lot of publications, what you're looking for if it's there, is a masthead. And the masthead will often, you have to dig. It's not through contact us, because that's like, if you have a problem, contact us. It's usually through about, and there'll be something about the team, and then a masthead. And then sometimes there's just people's names. Then you go to LinkedIn and you look at them, make sure that it's the right person. And then what I do, there's a website called, I can't think what it's called. I have it as one of my little save things, but it'll tell you the formula for a lot of businesses. Because like Chatelaine is owned by, I think it's Hearst, I think it's called. So a lot of them have these groups that they're owned by. So you find the formula. And then to be honest, sometimes you just put in what you think, send it. Because every pitch you do should be individualized. It should say, Dear Annie, and then your pitch. So you go Annie.Jones at Hearst.com. Okay, that didn't work. Try A Jones. And sometimes you gotta, this is why it takes so long. People are like, why is PR so time consuming? Like, well, it takes a long time. And, so I often reach out to people on LinkedIn or reach out to people on social. And what you want to do ideally, I think I'm now completely out of order, but that's okay, is make people care about you. Look at me bringing that back. You want to make people care. Start liking their posts so that they recognize your name. Comment on something that they've written. Like, support a story that they wrote. If they write about beauty products and they wrote about a hairbrush, comment on that, especially from your, your hair background. You could probably think of something that's actually positive to say about that, so that when you do email them, and often I will DM someone and say, hi, I'd love to share a pitch with you. Can you please let me know the best email? And 99% of the time they will. Because, we're going to get into this, but journalists are people. They're busy people. They're people who like work that is easy for them. So the easier you make it for a journalist, the more they will want to work with you. And I have to say, that's feedback I get all the time, that they say, you've made this so easy. And that's what you want. Give them everything. You know what I mean? Not give them everything. They don't want everything. But give them the bits of the story that you want told, and make it clear and make it concise. And then you've made their job so easy. If they have a 5 p.m. deadline and you're sending them stuff at noon and you make it easy for them, then maybe they get to have a coffee and then they like you.
Right.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. I know. I'm giving all the good stuff away. Okay, so now does anybody have any questions about either Lavoh or about kind of that little process that we went through? No? All very clear? Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Eliza? Or does anybody hear a story that I didn't hear in there?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was originally going to call it I Like Her. And then when I told my close circle, and every single one of them was like, do you really want to gender yourself? I was like, okay, I need to listen to you. So I wanted to find a name that could be maybe grow in the future to a lifestyle brand. So if I called it something like some of the other brands are like Erase Your Face or Makeup Eraser, that really is limiting you. You're not going to start making cosmetics if your brand is called Erase Your Face. So I wanted a name that could potentially grow into other products if I wanted it to. So I just started looking at names or words in other languages that meant to wash or to cleanse, and I kind of some of them sounded really beautiful, some of them sounded awful, and so I saw in I believe it's Latin, Lavoh means to wash or to cleanse, but it was spelled Lavo. And so when I looked that up, there's like a really famous restaurant I think it's in Vegas, called Lavoh. Either Vegas or LA. And I was like, well, that's not good. But I'm like, what if I just add an H to it? It still sounds the same. And I was Googling it and no other company came up. So I'm like, this is going to be really great SEO. And it's not going to change the way people are going to read it. It's going to be still easy to read, just I added an H to it. So that's how I came up with it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Lab. Oh. Okay, do you want to go to the next one? Thank you so much. So what I'd like to do is to sort of give you some tips for pulling out your own story. And if we want to kind of chat a little bit through this, we can totally do it that way. So one thing to know is that your product, your marketing is like this is my product, this is what it does, and this is why you want it. That's your marketing strategy. So your PR strategy is like, why should people care and why should people want it? And, what is that connection point? Because as we kind of said at the beginning, people want to connect with brands that they buy, and people want to understand brands they buy, and they want to like brands that they buy. So as we kind of mentioned before, answer your own FAQs. Like what are people asking you when you talk about your brand? What do people want to know? And go into that. And maybe that's your story. If like, how did you get into this? Maybe that's your story. Where do you make your face cloths? Maybe that's your story. Also research yourself. Like I said, Google the headlines that you want to see. Google your product. Look at pick your competitor and see what media they're getting. See who's talking about it. Like, is that sustainability story being told? And is it being told well? And can you tell it better? Also, what's your, where's your thought leadership in that? Like, sometimes it's hard to look at ourselves and be like, I'm the expert on like sustainable makeup cloth removers. Like, I am the person. If anybody wants to learn about this or talk about this, like, it's me. But just pretend.
Yeah.
Like, you are an expert, even if there's other people doing what you're doing. Yeah.
I've been doing recently is trying to do markets, even though markets are not my end goal. But it's such a great way to kind of keep answering the questions and also work on my pitch. Like, each time that I'm speaking to somebody, I'm trying to talk to them a little bit different, or ask them different questions about what do you hate about taking your makeup off right now, and trying to connect it to a story. So if you have the type of business where you can do a market, even if it's not your bread and butter, it's just such a great way to speak to clients and figure out what they want to know.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes your story might be one of your clients. Like, if you have a client, if you're a coach or a photographer or something like that, if you have a client that's really kind of touched you, then maybe it's their story that you're, and you would obviously kind of work with them if you were going to name them, but maybe that's the story that you're telling on how your product, your service, changed their life. And often, what do you want the story to be? And what I always say is, so PR is owned and earned. And if you can't earn it for whatever reason, if your pitches are not landing, own it. Write a blog, write it on social, tell that story, and tell it differently if you can, couple times, couple different ways, and make sure that you're telling it even if people aren't picking it up. Because the other thing too is, the more that you tell that, the more comfortable you will become, and you'll pull little stories out of that. And then when you pitch it, also your clients will read that story, whether that's on media or in your own social or on your own blog. But the more you tell that story, the more you kind of embody that story, and the more confident you become with it. Do you want to go to the next one? Thank you. Oh, so then how to pitch. I was going to put up a draft pitch up here, but I actually don't love that approach, because every pitch that I write is literally a unique email. Because I kind of mentioned this before, but journalists are people. They're people just like us. And I am also a writer, so I receive a lot of pitches, and I definitely know what I like and what I don't. And what I don't like is when you don't use my name. I'm probably not even going to read past the first little bit, hi, because then it's just, I know it's a copy paste. Write the subject line to sound like the headline that you want. If it's going to be a roundup, like 5 best or something like that. Write that headline or that subject line to sound like your story, because they're going to read that and go, oh, I want to read this, you know? Yeah, so a roundup is sort of a collection, like if you wanted to do the International Bath Day. So if you were pitching that International Bath Day is coming, so you would say, so the pitch, would that be top, and maybe don't give it a number in the subject line, but top products for International Bath Day. Because a journalist who's thinking about content, you know, and maybe put International Bath Day June 17th or whatever it was, so that they know that there's a timeline on it. And then that's not you saying, hey, read my email today, if you know, and if they don't get to it, then they're not going to miss that one. And then you would say, you kind of, hi, Jane, or whatever. And then what I would do is reference something that they have written before, if you can, if there's something relevant. You know, I know that you cover a lot of beauty products. I really enjoyed this story, if you can, and link to it maybe. Get to the point. So don't make pitches too long. You want a little intro. You want your blurb about why they should care and what your kind of story is, and understand the outlet. If you kind of, it's like a first impression sort of. If you're pitching your sustainability story to the beauty magazine without kind of tying it together, they're going to know that it's a blanket pitch and that it was actually meant for somebody else. They're going to know that really quickly. And then I just look for newsworthy hook like days. I had a really successful campaign with a client 2 years ago. She was called the Vagina Coach, and we found out through some research that it was, International Continence Week. It's now. So we're celebrating, hopefully we're all celebrating here today, celebrating our continents. But we were like using that as the pitch of being like, this is why you're getting this pitch. International Continence Week is, I think it was June 22nd June 16th to 22nd or something. Anyway, was a great hook for that, because a lot of people don't celebrate in International Continence Week. So finding something that is a newsworthy hook sort of puts you in the forefront of why that journalist should be interested. And then a roundup is sort of a listicle. It's clickbait, but if you can get onto those, it's great because people see your product in these lists. But what it's really good for as well is SEO. Every time your brand gets mentioned on a website that isn't your own, something happens in the back end. And I don't really know I'm not an SEO expert, but I know that it's really important. So I know that if I can place my clients in those lists, there's one guy that I pitched to, he does like a list of like 50 things for like Mother's Day, 50 products. And, you know, it's kind of like, okay, I don't know how many people are going to read all 50 of these products, but if I can get my clients on those lists. And then another thing that we're going to talk about is how to use the PR that you do get. Because sometimes you get low-hanging fruit PR, and that is okay because you get that SEO, and then it's what you do with that, you know, you can kind of take this small, you know, my friend's blog wrote about how great I am kind of thing, and you can make that, you can turn it into something bigger than it might originally seem. Understand lead time. It depends what it is. If you want to be in a Christmas gift guide in a hard copy magazine, August is probably when you want to be pitching. And a lot of magazines, a lot of publications, if you dig around their website, will have it's often in their, you want to look like you want to advertise as you're clicking through. And then they'll tell you, some of it's obvious. September is like back to school and fall looks, or, you know, October is this. So you can download 2024's layout and go like, okay, in March, they're talking about body positivity. So if they're a print publication, you probably want to introduce yourself 6 months before. So if you want to go in the body positivity issue, which is March, I would probably be trying to talk to them in September. If we're talking about International Bath Day and it's a digital publication, you could give them a month, and then you want to follow up, but don't be annoying. So I would probably, that's June, what did I say, June 14th. So we've all missed International Bath Day, which is too bad. I would probably be trying to get in touch with them in May 14th or May whatever. Don't send pitches on a Friday because they don't really land, I find. and don't send them at night. So we all have email schedulers for a reason. But I would probably pitch them at like a month, 5 weeks before, and then do a follow-up, and then maybe do another follow-up just to say, hey, not sure if you've had a chance to read this pitch, but International Bath Day is 3 weeks away. Get on it. So yeah, I know I've said this a couple of times, but it's so true. Journalists are people, and they want to be spoken to like people. They want to be pitched like people. So use their name, reference a piece they've written, understand the lead time. Don't message them in November and say, hey, I really want to be in your gift guide, because they're like, who is this person, you know? And you know, you can email a journalist and say, hey, I saw that you wrote this gift guide, this back-to-school gift guide last year, and I would love the opportunity to pitch you for this year. When are you hoping to receive those pitches? And they'll go, oh, I'm going to start working on that in, you know, I don't know, June. And you go, great, thanks. I'll follow up with you then. So, and it also depends if you have a timeline. Like if it's an event, for example, then you obviously have a timeline. You need to be quite on it. But if you don't have a timeline, it doesn't really matter. But I also think sometimes I'll email a journalist and say, what are you working on in the next few months? And then I can try to find a client that might be a fit for that. So it also works the other way. Tell them why you're emailing. Like dancing around and kind of giving them too much small talk is unhelpful. And also, how can you be helpful? And like I said, sometimes emailing them and saying like, hey, what are you working on? I will often email like a lifestyle publication and say, I'm working with a couple of clients that could be good fits. What are you working on? What's coming up for you? And then they can give me that. And then I go away and find them a story and a pitch. And I always say with my clients that, you know, our contracts are generally between, 3 and 6 months, but I'm reactive forever. So if I get an opportunity for a client that I worked with a year ago, but a journalist says to me, I'm looking for a great planner for moms, I know Jillian has one. So I can give her that story, because what that does is it obviously helps Jillian, but it makes them come back to me. Like I'm getting a little bit to the point in my career where like I'll get a call from one of them saying, hey, do you know anyone who does this and this? And I always say, of course I do. I will call you back. And and then I find someone, because I want to be as helpful to them as I can. Because if we can work together, like they're people, right? They want to work with people they like. I want to work with people I like.
Question?
Yeah.
The follow-up. So let's say you're not a journalist, you're doing this for yourself. You email somebody a pitch.
Yeah.
Hear back from them. What is like your timeline for when do you follow up and how often do you follow up?
I find I will rarely hear back on the first email. So don't ever be discouraged when you don't hear back from the first email. They expect follow-up. So don't send it once and then, it didn't land. Depends on if it is timely. If you're talking about International Bath Day, you need to get in there again. I usually do a week, and like a week between my first pitch and my second pitch. And then I will do a third and say, hey, just wanted to check in and see if you'd have a chance to look at this yet. And very rarely will I follow up a fourth time. Only if...
Not even like...
But then I was going to say too, so if you're coming around for like we were talking about this, so let's say you did some Mother's Day pitching for your product or your service. And you emailed them in March for Mother's Day, which is May, and then you followed up a week later, and maybe you hit them again and you didn't hear back. Like, that's okay, because these things do take a long time. What I could do, or what I might do again, is hit them again. We're talking a digital publication here with the lead times. I would hit them again in November and say, hey, not sure if you had a chance to consider my product for Mother's Day, but it also could work really well in a Christmas gift guide. I'd love to send you some more information, or here are some great updated photos or something like that. Just pretend that they didn't ghost you, or not ghost you, but, So,
yeah. Would you include some photos?
Maybe one. People don't like big emails, right? If they see a big email, and don't do an attachment because they probably won't open it. So I was going to mention press releases in here. Press releases are great for events. They're great for crises. They're great for government who doesn't want anyone to read them. They're great for bad news. A lot of people will strategically release a press release on the same day that they know other things are happening because it's news. A lot of companies are obligated to put information out through different, legislation or whatever. So they will time those press releases Friday afternoon on the last day of school because no journalists and nobody is, reading the newswire on those days. What's that? Yeah, celebrity divorces. Totally. Thanksgiving weekend. Put it out then. Everyone's busy. Yeah, news that you don't want to hear. Sorry, I feel like I got distracted.
No, I was just asking about following up.
Oh, yeah.
Not walking the line of being, not getting discouraged, you don't hear anything, but also not being
I would say 3, max 2, and then wait a few months, whatever. It also depends. Like if you're like, this person wants this story, they write about supplements all the time and they just haven't read my email yet, then also try LinkedIn, go back, like some of their posts, sort of like engage with them, stalk a little, but not a lot. And I just wanted to say, be nice. Like journalists really like when you're nice to them. And I always follow up after they've covered a client of mine and say, hey, thanks so much. We really appreciated that story. Have a great weekend. And I think those emails go a long way when you do say thank you to people. And a lot of people forget. They're excited about whatever happened and they forget those little thank yous. But I think the people getting them don't forget. But yeah, I would say 3 follow-ups max, but then definitely 6 months later, go for it. Why not? And if you really think that, and also, okay, if they're local, if there's someone I might see at an event, I approach it a little different. If they're a national publication and they're in Toronto and they're, I may hit them 4 times because I want that story. And then I might get really annoying because I really want this client in this publication. Not going to run into them. And they work for a bigger publication, right? So they probably get more emails. The other thing you can do is every publication has several writers. So definitely I've gone, and often you can CC the editorial at or news at, CC that, which will go into like a general bucket. Always try to address it to one person, but you can CC that other email. And then if I really want in that publication, find someone else. There's always more writers, right? And one person, I never take it personally. I'm like, they have a big inbox or they're working on a different story or whatever. So try someone else. But yeah, be friendly, say nice, be nice, say thank you, and stalk a little bit. Hit them on social. People can see when you've been to their LinkedIn account. Sometimes I go there just so that they see my name. You always don't want people to see your name, but sometimes I'm like, I want you to know I was here. You can go to the next one. So I kind of mentioned this before, but I think it's really important, your ROI. So like I said, there is low-hanging PR. Like your friend's blog writes about you, or your friend with very few followers reviews which is great. Like your friends, all of our friends are like micro-influencers. But there's a lot of ways that you can take those things and make them bigger than they were. Like if you're in a roundup of 50 products, you're in there, right? So you can take a screenshot of that. You can even retype out whatever that was there and turn it into like a really cute graphic that's on brand for you. If you were quoted in an article, pull that quote out and, whatever it is, and then wrote Eliza at Lavoh and put it in your brand colors because it's your quote, right? And then put on your website as seen in, all of these publications. Share it again and again and again and again because your followers don't remember that you were on Global 3 weeks ago. And maybe they do, or 5 weeks ago. They're like, I was just thinking about when I was on Global 2 months ago. Absolutely share it again, because what I find with a lot of clients is they get all this PR and, the way that PR kind of works, it tends to kind of come at once and then and then nothing. So have a cycle where you're going back and sharing those hits that you got, and don't be embarrassed because people, A, don't remember, and B, they think it's great. They're happy for you. They're going to like it again. But what I love is when you can kind of take this roundup of 50 things, pull yours out, and then, screenshot it, and then say thanks for sharing whoever that blog was, and tag them. Because also the blogs want content as well. If you tag a publication, some of the big ones might miss it or whatever, but if it's a small publication, and you're sharing that you were in them, they're going to reshare that. And then, you know, from 6 months ago, you get it all again. And then maybe it drives some people back to that gift guide, and then maybe they're looking at it again. So you can't really kind of share too much. Sometimes I encourage clients with a big hit, like if it was a big magazine or a TV or something, put in your email signature. Did you catch me on Global? And just leave it there for a month. Maybe no one clicks it, but I think some people will. And whether they click it or not, it's your way of being like, hey, I was on Global TV. Did you see it? And maybe they don't want to see it, and that's fine. Use that in your newsletter, put it on your social, add it to your website. Take the content and create content from that. How can you take your hit and make it look a little bit different? Or, obviously don't change the words because that can get sticky. And always tag the publication. And if you can tag the journalist, and if you can tag the photographer when you're sharing a hit, try to get as many of those tags in because people will share it. And then I kind of mentioned this before, but if you're not getting those bigger hits that you want, find places to tell your story. Tell it on your own blog. Tell it on your friend's blog. Tell it on your social. Find a publication, a lower hanging fruit. Make friends with journalists and get your story out there in a way that feels accessible. But if big publications aren't biting, that's fine. It takes time. Sometimes publications have to see. I had a journalist come back to me 2 years after I pitched her and said, oh, hey, I'm ready for that interview now. And I was like, I called the client up. I was like, you still want to talk about this? Sure. So, sometimes it takes a while. I wrote a children's book that 2 lucky winners will take home tonight. And I think you probably already have. But when I did that, I sent out a lot of them because in my mind, it was a fairly, not low value, it was very high value, but like a low cost product to send out. But then I was sending them to these influencers, and some of them were sharing it on their story with no link. Some of them didn't tag me. Some of them didn't share it at all. And I started to think so I'm paying like $4 postage. The book cost me $7. I was like, oh, $11. Like, that's okay. It could be. When you send out an $11, I hate that my husband's listening to this right now. Wait, I only did it 300 times. When you send out this $11 value product, you're devaluing yourself a little bit because influencers talk. They're, possibly all getting it. So anyway, I do think it's good sometimes. Like I have Jillian Harris's home address. So sometimes I'll just send her stuff. And once it hit a story and it did really well. So sometimes you take that chance, you send that product. But I think you need to think about the value of your product, first of all, because you have a beautiful jewelry line, which I'm guessing you're not just throwing in, bubble bags. And no. But what I would suggest is contact them either through social or email and say, I'd love to send you a gift. And then if they get back to you, then send it. You know what I mean? Because then you kind of have a verbal agreement. The other thing is you can hire influencers. They're very payable. They will take your money. So to go to them and say, hey, do you have a media kit? And then you have a contractual obligation. And then they will do a good job because they have a contractual obligation. But I think you want to be strategic. You also don't want to make your product, you don't want to devalue yourself. Yeah, sometimes. Like product reviews. They'll do those, but with any kind of publication, you want to have that agreement because otherwise they don't know what they're getting. There's a table, and in every media office I've ever been to with a women's magazine, geez, I went to one a couple of months ago, and they were like, hey, if you want anything on that table, just take it. And I did. But I'm like, oh, goodies, free stuff. But everyone in the office is so over it that you want that kind of agreement with them that they're going to acknowledge your product, they're waiting for it, and they're going to review it.
About contacting journalism for magazines, is there usually at least upfront cost that we should be expecting to be featured in any of those magazines or digital?
Generally,
is that something to be aware of? Rates, we don't get scammed. I'm curious.
I encourage all of my clients to have a flexible sponsored content budget. like to just think about it ahead of time, because a lot of them haven't. They're paying me to do their PR, and that's their budget. They haven't thought about anything above and beyond that. And I really think it's case by case. Like for a roundup, generally you wouldn't pay anything. It'd be more earned. But like if you're opening a restaurant and you want to be in Daily Hive, or if you want to be in Daily Hive because you're launching a product, it's going to cost you $3,000. And for that, you'll get a story, maybe 2 social posts. They might boost one of them. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, because like it will get, if you're opening a restaurant, that's great coverage for you. And so to fold that into your budget is probably a good idea. But what I do find with sponsored media is they'll ask you some questions. They'll send you back a very badly written editorial because their very most junior person does it. And then you have to kind of go through and make sure that your story is told in there, which is great because you can go back and forth a couple times. You're the client, right? So you're saying like, I'm not happy with this. Let's try again. Or you spelt my brand wrong. I've seen that before. You got the dates to my event wrong. Let's try again. But again, be nice. Always be nice. And also sometimes in those situations, I've had publications screw up. And sometimes that can be the best thing that's ever happened, because then you get a do-over and you get 2 opportunities. But most like print publications, newspapers, it's not paid. TV is like news, generally not paid. It's all earned. There's some regulation now about marking things as sponsored content.
Yeah, when it comes to finding influencers,
Mm-hmm.
like a trick of actually finding ones that are not like the big heads or whatever. It's like every niche has their top whatever. Is there a way of finding influencers? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
local influencers or local.
So I've heard about this new trend right now called the unfluencer. De-influencers, unfluencers or whatever. So those are people that like tell you why you shouldn't buy something. Am I right? But yeah, so there tends to be the 2,000 and under tend to work for product. Generally tend not to be paid. If there were any in the room, I'm sorry if you do like to be paid. Like most of them would have another job. Let's say they're not paying their mortgage with their influencer income. And then 2 to 10 is, I don't know if it's still called a micro influencer, and then 10 up. And you can pay, I've paid $35 for a post for a client. I've paid $7,000 for one story. Like it really varies. It's so case by case. And my advice there is like, get to know the influencers, get them like be friendly and accessible with them. You can go to them and say, I really want to work with you. First of all, the respectful thing I think is to go to an influencer, say, do you have a media kit? And they'll send you back, and then you know what you're working with. And then you can say, can I send you this product? Or can I, and you have an interesting situation. Allie has a maternity clothing line. So you kind of have a window. Yeah. And you don't know a lot of people do talk about their pregnancies early, but a lot of them don't. So you might not have time to have that back and forth and to create those relationships, because then the baby's out and it's too late. Just thinking how I might approach that. What I would maybe suggest doing is to contact, I hate the mommy influencer or whatever. I feel like there's probably a better name for them, but, and to say to them, this is who I am, this is what I do, and I'm looking for, pregnant influencers. Do you know anyone? Because they're in their groups. They might know someone who's maybe 4 months pregnant who isn't talking about that yet. And to kind of get in that way. But I think it is respectful to ask for a media kit, or just to say, do you exchange coverage for product? How do you work? And then let me decide if I can work with you. And I always say to them, I'm just getting quotes right now. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to get their hopes up. You don't want to make them think that you're working together when you're maybe not. Say, I'm just gathering a few quotes. And also that might make them think, oh, I should be a little bit cheaper, so she maybe picks me. It's a funny game because it's not like a regulated. Yeah. Don't tell them that.
To say, to add on to how you find the right people to work with is what I do when I'm looking for. So part of my build up to my launch was doing a lot of UGC. So I'm like, okay, who's comfortable at making videos already? Makeup artists. So for me, I was like, those are people that are doing their makeup. They're taking videos. So I searched Vancouver makeup artist hashtag. I searched Calgary makeup artist. I searched, Toronto makeup artist. And then I just scrolled through till I found people that did their makeup a lot on themselves. And I found people that were in that like 5,000 and under range, and reached out to them and said like, hey, like, I love the tutorials you're doing. I'm launching this brand. I would love to send you some product in exchange. And I like made it very clear what I was looking for.
And what did you say? Like 2 posts or?
I said I want a UGC video.
Okay.
So like a full video, and then you would tag me as
UGC is user generated content.
So we would collaborate on the post together. And what I found was...
Sorry, can I ask another question?
Yeah.
By collaborate, you mean you tag, like...
Yes. So basically, it lives, if you collaborate, it means it lives on your feed and it lives on their feed at the same time. So you share likes, you share comments, you share posts. And I'm talking about Instagram specifically. But I've found a lot of the people to work with just by searching that hashtag and scrolling through. And then you'll find one person that's maybe the ideal influencer for you. And then you'll look at who they're following, because they're most likely following people that are in kind of the same realm. So for yourself, I would maybe even look at some midwife clinics, and I would like go on their profile and see who's following them. Because if you're not pregnant, you're probably not following a midwife clinic. If you're, a 6-year-old man, you're probably not following. So you can kind of like look at, who the target person is, but then look at who they're following, because they're most likely following people that are interested in the same things. So yeah, it takes a little bit of stalking, but yeah. So creating authentic content, and also if we go to the next slide, I'm going to be talking about the importance of your personal brand. So can I just get a quick raise of hand? Who loves to put your face on social media? Okay, a couple people. Awesome. So I feel like now more than ever, it is so important to be building your personal brand. And it's going to look different depending on what kind of business you're in. So if you're someone like Cheryl, who's an amazing realtor, you're offering a service. It's not like you have a separate product that lives outside of you. You and your brand are very much one thing together. Myself, I have Eliza Trendiak as one social kind of identity, and then I have my brand. So based on whether your service or based on how intertwined you are with your business, it's going to look different. But one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was starting my hair salons 8 years ago, I didn't want to have 2 accounts. I was like, that is so much work to run 2 accounts. So I just tried to have the salon account, and I'd like when I was posting photos of my work versus another stylist's work, I would just be writing like, by owner Eliza, whatever. And somebody was like, Eliza, you have to have your own account, because you are different than your salon. You are different than the stylist. And I'm so thankful for that piece of advice, because fast forward, I thought I was going to be in the hair industry forever. And if I hadn't have started 8 years ago on building a personal brand, and I had only built the salon brand, when I sold that would have been gone, and I literally would have been starting from scratch. So for those of you that didn't raise your hand and you maybe hate the idea of putting yourself out there, more so than ever, people want to buy from people. They want to see the people they like. The people that they like. Yes, this is true. And we're kind of moving away from just like following faceless brands, and we really want to know the story behind it. We want to buy from people that we like and that we trust. So if you haven't ever put your face on the internet and you're at the beginning of your personal brand journey and you feel overwhelmed, that's okay. And maybe you're like way far down the road and you can just get a couple little tips and tricks out of this. That's awesome. This is all just things that I've learned from throwing stuff at the wall over the last decade and seeing what sticks. So we can move to the first slide. So the first thing you want to think about is your purpose. So what is the purpose of a personal brand? Is it just to, if you go into it without knowing what your purpose, you're going to probably flail around a little bit, feel like you're wasting time and you're not getting any traction. So you want to think about, like I said, is it separate or is it intertwined with my business? And you want to think about, is it to gain new clients? Is that the purpose of what your personal brand is? Is it to build awareness for yourself or for your brand? Is it to get new opportunities? I know I'm referencing like the salon a lot, but one of the things I did when I was, still in the hair industry is I really wanted opportunities to travel and teach. So I started really focusing on that and started creating content where I was teaching, and that opened up to different opportunities. So you want to think about, if you want opportunities, are you looking for partnerships? Are you looking for staff? When I was staffing the salons, a huge piece of why I would have people apply to work for me was because of our social media presence, because young stylists were coming up and seeing like, okay, you guys put an emphasis on that. Do you want to become a trusted advisor in your field? Do you want people in your industry to look up to you, or do you want people that would be clients to be looking up to you? And again, what are your long-term career goals? And like I said, never in a million years did I think that I would sell the salons, but I did. So even if you feel like the brand that I'm doing right now is the brand that I'm going to do forever, so I don't want to create a separate personal brand, you never know where life is going to take you. And if you can start working on carving out a personal brand for yourself now, it's going to be that much easier down the line if you decide to do something else, because you've already created that following or that community when you decide to do something else. The next one. So tips with this, like I said, if you have a standalone brand that is not your, personal name or the personal service that you do have two accounts, one for your brand and one for yourself. If you are a service provider, you're a counselor or you're a realtor and you're very much intertwined, having one account, I think is great. You're just going to tailor it a little bit differently. You want to succinctly describe who you are. And the reason why I put this up here is because right off the bat, I succinctly say who I am and what I'm about. So I'm a serial entrepreneur and a tired toddler mom. So you know that when you come to my account, I'm most likely going to be talking about business, and I'm going to be talking about mom stuff, real life mom stuff. So if you're not into that, you can keep scrolling. Also, I put right there, I'm the founder of Lavoh. It's a makeup remover face cloth that will change your life, and you can get them there. So I find a lot of times people on their social platforms will just put like a quote, or, I've seen this one a lot where it's like Jesus lover, wife, sister, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're not telling me anything about like who you are or what I'm going to like be engaging with. So you really want to think about like, this is almost like your like mini little elevator pitch of like, if you come to engage with my content, whether it's Instagram, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's TikTok, whatever social platform that you're on, you just want to make sure that that's really succinct so people can see right away like who you are and what you're about and what your page is going to be about. Also, if you have a physical location where you service clients out of, or you have a store, you need to put your location. It is one of my biggest pet peeves in the entire world. I used to see this in the hair industry where people would be like, hairstylist, like I work Wednesday to Friday, come book with me. And I didn't even know what country you were in. And I would have to like, and it would drive me crazy. I would purposely like dig and like look and try and be like, okay, what salon are they at? And then then I'd go to the salon page. The salon wouldn't even say what province or what country. And I'm like, how do you expect to get people to walk in your door if you don't even tell us where to go? So obviously if you're online, you want to link to what website you want people to go. If you're brick and mortar, you want to say where you physically are and that you want people to show up.
Could you say ships worldwide or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say ships worldwide. I'm not doing that yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I haven't put that. But yeah, any of those, like, you want to make it so that people have to use the least amount of brain calories possible. If they have to like dig and try and figure out where to find you, where to buy your stuff, or where your store is, you're making it hard for them just to even show up and engage. And that's only step one.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I search a lot of influencers, and same thing. I'm like, you're perfect. Where do you live?
Yeah.
If you live in Vancouver, do you live in Canada? I don't even know.
Yeah.
And often I just give up. And so that person doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So finding your voice, I like to kind of think about this, about if you think of your favorite comedian, they've got like a very specific voice, a very specific cadence. Like Jerry Seinfeld tells a joke very differently than Dave Chappelle. And if you've watched careers of comedians, over time, they slowly hone their voice and their craft and the way that they speak, so that, you know, their joke or whatever is so memorable, and you know exactly who it is, even without seeing a photo of them. So I like to use finding your voice as, this is kind of like a litmus test for all of the content that I create. So this will change over time based on what phase of life you're in. I used to cringe at mom content before I became a mom. I was like, oh my gosh, I will never post about my kids, or I will never do this if I become a mom. Newsflash, I'm there. That's like what I talk about, because that's the phase of life that I'm in. So for me, my Venn diagram, I'm the mother of 2 toddlers. It's pure chaos all of the time. Authenticity and humor, I love to add, like, anytime I can add humor to something, I love to watch funny things. So if I can add some humor to it, and authenticity is spelled wrong. But authenticity, I am very much about, like, I want to show real life. And I think we're kind of past the phase of like perfectly curated everything. People want to engage with real live human beings who do not have it all together. So authenticity and humor is just part of my voice. And then the other part of my voice is a business owner and just talking about entrepreneurship and business. So those 3 things are kind of like my litmus test for the content that I'm going to create. So sometimes I'll get an idea and it's way out of left field. And if I can't figure out a way to make it fit within one of those 3, I'm like, you know what? This probably isn't worth my time to spend time like creating this, you know, this piece of content. Because you want to, like, we're all multifaceted human beings, but sometimes if somebody comes to our page and one post we're ranting about this, but then the next post we're, you know, saying something political, and then this, people don't know who you are, like what your voice really is. So like trying to narrow it down a little bit, and have some consistency in that, I think will engage people to follow along a little bit more. So sometimes figuring out like what your unique perspective is.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
So I just looked at your page. Very impressive the amount of people that are following you. And what's the goal of that personal page of yours? Because obviously you have a Lavoh.
Yeah.
Obviously promoting now through this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that before you launched up to a year ago, like last year, what was the goal of that page?
Right. So it's changed over time. So the goal used to be to find new hair clients. And while I was still working behind the chair, I was posting videos of like what my work looked like. I was posting photos of my clients, daily life in the salon. As I slowly started to work behind the chair less and less, and I wanted more teaching opportunities, and I wanted, more like business opportunities, I slowly started to change that, where I focused more on like teaching content, and then that led to opportunities of traveling and teaching hair. And then as that kind of grew, then I started to get a following of salon owners who were interested in learning like the business side of things. And so I started doing lots of tips and tricks of business. So it's kind of evolved as I have evolved in my stages of life. So when I decided to sell the salons, I was like, well, I have this group of people that have followed me over the years because they either like enjoy my personality or, you know, they've enjoyed watching my different, you know, kind of business ventures. And then also I started doing like mom stuff in there because I was just like the phase of life I'm in. Like I once had one of my kids projectile vomit at a staff meeting. So it's just like, that's the phase of life I'm in. I can't even hide that. So that's where I started to put it, you know, to incorporate that into, you know, into my voice, into my like social media voice. And now it's really a platform for me, it's connecting with other women. A lot of times business owners and moms, just to like not feel so alone sometimes when you feel like you're going crazy. So it's really a place of connection, but then also I do promote my brand in there.
Up to work and personalized and equity.
Absolutely. So that's where my brand is kind of only one, like my business is only kind of one of the hoops, where like if we look at what my voice is on my brand page, it's going to be totally different. And so this visual has just really helped me because, you know, each one of you in here who has a business, that's part of you, but then there is other elements of you. So if I was just constantly just like trying to promote my brand and, you know, shove it down people's throats all the time, they'd probably tune out pretty quick. People like to see behind the scenes stuff. They like to see when, you know, you've made a mistake and you've had to overcome it, or they like to see kind of, the behind the scenes stuff, where I feel like your brand persona is a little bit more polished. And the personal side is more like that human side to it, if that helps answer your question a little bit. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's going to be different for everyone. Like, I am really selective of, like, what I actually show of my children. So, like, a lot of my mom stuff is just, like, you know, it's them off camera, or, like, my reactions to things, or how, you know, messy my house is, or whatever it is. I will show some of them, but I will usually run it by my husband first, being like, are you comfortable if I post this, and that kind of thing? Because I do have, I'm friends with a lot of they have a community that want to see my kids. But, you know, I know some friends who, like, will not post a single photo of their child on the internet, which I completely understand and respect. So if ever there's like a twinge in my mind of like, maybe I should just keep this moment for like me and our family, I'll just send it to, you know, I'll just send it to my friends, or I'll send it to, that's why you've got kind of like the close friends option on stories, or I just won't post on the internet. I'll just keep special albums in my phone. But that's going to be a different comfort level for everyone.
And I think it can change too.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of mom influencers who shared a lot of their kids. And as soon as their kids got to an age where they were able to have an opinion on that, they're not on there anymore. And I mean, I would encourage all of us to respect our children in that kind of way. And, you know, as soon as they are vocal and able to talk about that.
Yeah. I think also too, like, you know, figuring out what level of vulnerability you're okay with. And I always try and just kind of like ask myself, like, what is a purpose? Like, what is my purpose for posting this? And sometimes if I'm like, this is strictly because I'm having a bad day and I want external validation, I'm like, maybe let's just skip it today. Or just do it. But like, so for example, the video that's gone the most viral for myself, it has like 2 million views, and it's literally a video of me crying because another mom was wildly like offensive and inappropriate to me at the park. And I was like, this, it was just like yeah, I was like, do I post this? Do I not? Like, I look like I'm a mess. But in the moment, I just really wanted, like, I wanted people to be like, one, it's not okay to like speak about other people's bodies or make comments or whatever. But two, I just want people to know that they're not alone, because I know so many people experience this. So I'm like, okay, if I can turn this around and make it a positive thing. The thing went viral, and there's days where I'm like, oh gosh, I can't believe I posted myself crying on the internet. But on the other side, like, the connection that has come out of that, the amount of women that have like been like, I've been through this too, or like just like the encouragement. I'm like, you know what? For me, I'm like, I will keep up that video, even though like I look like a mess and it makes me feel uncomfortable to watch. But I'm like, it connected with so many people. So that one, unfortunately, like, you know, I can't give an answer. It's like, you got to just like listen to your gut. I feel like your gut will not lead you wrong when it comes to, do I post this? Do I not? Kind of thing. And also, it's okay to take a break. Like, it's okay to take a break, or it's okay to post something and then realize, I'm not loving how this is being received, or I'm not loving how this landed, and take it down. Like, nobody will remember. And yeah, so back to this, like, really leaning into like what stage of life you're in. If you're having a hard time figuring out what your unique voice would be, like, describe yourself in 3 words, or ask your closest friends or family to describe you. Like, what do you love about me? I know it's a weird question maybe to ask, but like, when you think of me, what are the first 3 words that come to your mind? And also, what do you yourself enjoy engaging with? And that, again, that will change over time. But if you genuinely like love the content that you're putting out, you will not care if it flops or nobody likes it. Like, the amount of times where I'm sitting on the couch, like, cracking myself up watching my own video, and Rob's just like, he's like, you think you're so funny, and I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, that's great. If like 9 people watch it, who cares? I really enjoyed it. So we can go to the next one. Again, audience, it's going to be very similar to like your, ideal client, because you want to be thinking about what's authentic and relatable for your customers. If your business is part of that Venn diagram, you want to be thinking about what's relatable to them. But think about, what are they interested in? Where do they shop? Where are they hanging out? Who do they follow? That's kind of where I've started to make a lot of connections, is by following those little rabbit trails of like finding an account that I really love and be like, oh, like, this account makes me feel so great when I engage with their content. And usually they're following people like similarly to that. And it's okay to take inspiration from other accounts. Like, I will engage and watch other pieces of content, get ideas, and like maybe riff off of an idea that they had, but put my own kind of personal spin on it. And then we can go to the next one. So if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I've never put my face on the internet, or I'm comfortable with it, but I'm feeling, uninspired, the first thing is to just start. Like, the amount of times that people have been like, Eliza, you seem like natural. You seem very comfortable on camera. And I'm like, it is not always the case. It's just from practice and also a lot of editing. So literally just start. If you're feeling overwhelmed by it, maybe make yourself a bite-sized goal of like, okay, my goal right now, I post once a month. Right now I put my face on the internet once a month. Let's try and do it once a week. And let's try and maybe master one platform before I try and do all of them. Any step you take, like if you're trending upwards, that's great. Like, we don't need perfection. You don't need a million followers. But you just want to be like putting something out there, because every step, a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to be glad that you did. So forget about followers. It's about engagement. If you have 1 million followers, but nobody cares or nobody feels connected to you, like, what actually does that follower, what does that mean? It's really about engagement and creating real life connections. So you want to showcase authentic stories, create real life connections. I've made real life friends from talking to people like over Instagram, connecting with their, with their content, reaching out to them, asking them questions, and then end up meeting up in real life, or maybe they live across the country, but using it as a tool to create real life meaningful connections, I think has felt a lot more fulfilling than just scrolling. Like using it as a tool, social media, using it as a tool to be social and to build up the people around you. I love this quote, "A rising tide lifts all boats." So figuring out a way of like, how can I identify complementary businesses? How can I collaborate and create win-win situations? So for me, anytime that I can hype up, usually it's a female entrepreneur because I'm just stoked on them, but anytime that I can hype up another person's business, I will, because one, it's easy content. It's always easier to talk about somebody else than it is about yourself. Two, you're helping promote another person, but the plus side of it always comes back to you. So anytime that I can collaborate with people, anytime that I can like bring somebody on, for example, this is a photo shoot we did this week for Lavoh, and I wanted every single aspect of my photo shoot to be collaborative, like bringing on somebody that I love. So my model is my nail girl. She's never modeled before, but she was phenomenal. Leah, she lent me all the jewelry for the shoot. Leah's right there. And my husband did the photography. I don't have other photos of it, but we did the photo shoot in the most stunning like condo you have ever seen. And it was literally an internet friend that lent me their condo for free to do this photo shoot. Because not only did I get amazing images, but I had an amazing time doing it. And now I created this piece of content, which I needed photos for my website anyways. But now I've got 5 people that I can go and collaborate with, tag. They're excited about those images. They want to show it to other people. It's a win-win. It actually cost me less than had I have gone out and I have hired models before. Adriana is a phenomenal model. She's on my website as well. But if you can find people that you can try and bring up along with you, for me, that's what gets me really excited. It feels like it just feels more exciting, and you're going to get more eyeballs on it if you're trying to bring along people with you. Micro-influencer, we kind of talked about this a little bit. I find, when I was prepping for the launch of Lavoh, I sent PR kits to the biggest name influencers you can think of, but then I also sent them to makeup artists and moms and people that had 5,000 followers or less. And those people were so excited. They were so many of them were like, this is my first PR package ever. They made full videos with subtitles and music and editing, and I'm getting phenomenal content for the cost of a face cloth and postage. And
did you connect with them first or just send?
I connected with them first, and I actually just filmed a little video and said, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, because then they see my face and they know it's a real person and they know it's not a scam. I said I love your content, this is what I'm doing. Would you be interested in doing a UGC video in exchange for me sending you some face cloths? And every single person said yes, and every single person was excited about it. Yes, I did that on Facebook as well. I just filmed a video on my phone, and then I DM'd them the video. I sent them a little blurb first and said I'm going to send you a video describing what I'm about, what this is about. It's easier than typing it out. Boom, boom, boom. And no, I didn't. And yeah, every single person got back to me. And then their friends were like, hey, like, I saw that so-and-so did a video for you. Like, I'm interested too. And now I've actually had to like put a couple people on the back burner. Like, I don't need any more right now, but I'll reach out to you. But I find the micro influencers that you maybe don't have to pay, or just like the cost of product, are really excited about it, because they're not getting sent 10 packages every day.
And you can use that content.
Absolutely. Over and over and over again.
Sure. They don't go back, oh, this person only has 3,000 followers. They don't.
Yeah. And then my last thing that I always say is ask to get. The worst that can happen is somebody says no. So whether, you know, I've used this so many times. I'm having a booth at the Calgary Stampede next month. They said no to me like 2 or 3 times, and I just kept being like, you want me, you want me, you want me. And finally they said yes. Or if it's like a collaboration, even if it feels like it's like so out of your league, just ask. The worst thing that could happen is they just don't respond, or they say no. So I feel like that goes for PR, but it also goes for collaborations, you know, sending your product to people, that kind of thing. Okay, I think we just have one more slide. Okay, so this is just really quickly some tips and tricks for creating content, creating videos. Every single platform wants your content to be unique to them. So for example, if you create a video in Instagram and then you save it to your phone and you put it on TikTok, TikTok does not like that. If you make a video in TikTok and then you put it on YouTube Shorts, they don't like that. Each platform wants to feel special, like your content is only for them. So what you want to do is find a video editing app. My favorite is called Premiere Rush. It's by Adobe. It's a free version. It's an app. It's once you get the hang of it, it's actually very easy to use. Yeah.
That include like Facebook and Instagram? People want it.
Facebook owns Instagram, so they're okay. They're fine. YouTube, they all want it different because this app tricks them. But also, not only does the app trick them, but you own that video. If you make a video in Instagram and you use their editing tool, if Instagram decides to just go away tomorrow, there goes your content. So the first video is, you can see all those little lines. That's the amount of cuts that I'm doing. So if you're like, even if you've been doing this forever, you just start filming, you just keep going. Even if you mess up over your words, you just keep going. If you say, if you have a brain fart, you just keep going. You put it in there and you just cut. So for example, Instagram, you know, you have 90 seconds in a reel. You get really good really fast at figuring out what the important message is. Because sometimes I'll go on a little tangent and then you get in there, you're like, I only have 90 seconds. Cut. That's not important. I'll cut out every Sometimes I'll, you know, cut out, or sometimes I'll even like speed up a clip a tiny, if I'm like 1 second over, I'll just like speed up a clip a tiny little bit, and you won't even notice it. But all my videos live, so that's what it looks like in Rush, and you can name each one so you can easily go back and find it, because once you've made that piece of content, you want to be able to upload it multiple places, but you also want to be able to repost it in your feed, because like we said, we're super aware of our own feeds, but trust us, like even your best friend is not going to remember that you posted that video 3 months ago. Like they're just not, because we just consume so much all the time. And then this way too, you always want to add your subtitles in whatever social platform you're using, because that's going to increase your search engine optimization. It increases the user engagement. And then also, you want your video to be able to be watched anywhere. So you always want to have subtitles, because a lot of people are watching videos like on their commute, at work when they're not supposed to be, and they don't want to have the sound on. So it's important to always have your subtitles on. And then a last little piece is try and always use trending audio, even if you just put the volume down to 0. So trending audio will be like, one song, everyone's using this song. Even if you don't need music or it's a more serious post or whatever, still put trending audio because it's going to push your content further. But just have your volume up to 100% and put the trending audio volume down to 0. So those are just like a couple little like quick practical, like when it comes to video creation, things that have made it a lot easier for me. But the biggest thing is just to start. And even if you feel awkward, you can always edit stuff out. You can just edit. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it.
We just wanted to end by kind of summarizing all of that and talking about the power of collaboration and the power of community. Because, social media obviously happens on social media. But as you said, it's social media. And your PR happens all the time. Like when you walked in here and said hello to people, that was a form of PR. So I think if we go to the next slide, I think I found that, this is not mine. Whoever's it is tagged there. But I love it. There's so many ways to support your friends' small businesses, the small businesses in this room, and that is free. You can buy their products, of course, but share their post, like their post, tag someone in their post. Like if you see a Lavoh post, tag someone and say like, hey, have you heard about this? Demi?
Maybe is there a way for us to get a list of everybody who's in here? Because I only talked to 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
Can we get a list so we can actually...
I hadn't thought of that, but we could probably try and make that happen. Yeah, we can get a list of everybody's social. Actually, why don't we can throw a paper out, and if you want to put your...
Go to one of your guys' posts and...
Oh, great idea.
Oh, no. Totally. But if you want to do emails or like social media, Instagram pages, okay. Yeah. Hashtag. We started on hashtag.
Just do a comment on the last.
Yeah. Why don't we do like the last?
My last post is a Father's Day post on that end.
So I don't know, but not about
But why don't we do that? If you go to our post with the little photo of this event, and if you just want to maybe we'll do a hashtag, been there, seen that.
Okay.
Or what was our learn, strategize, connect? That's kind of maybe too much, but pick a funny hashtag, been there, seen them or something, and then people can follow you that way. Does that sound like a good place to start? But that's a great idea. And we're going to send a very short survey out after this to see, how we can do this better next time. And that's a great suggestion. Because you're right. Sometimes at the end of the event, you only did talk to 2 people.
Yeah.
We'll do... Oh, why don't we just say amplify your brand? That's probably easier. Amplify your brand. And then you can go and see everyone that's used the hashtag, and then you can follow them. And that's a great way for everyone in this room to get 30 new followers. Forget those follow trains.
Yeah. Since they've made good for that.
But those are great ways. And connect with us. So those are our socials.
like the megaphone.
Well, thank you all so much. I hope that was I hope that was useful. And if anyone has any questions, we're going to hang around for a little bit. No rush to go. Please eat some more. Drink some more if there's any drinks left. To
Adriana, who's over here filming. Adriana has a media company called The Freckled Media, and I asked her to do some reels for tonight, so she's going to be filming. And also, if any of you need reels for your brand and don't want to get in front of the camera, she can film you. So,
and shout out to Rob, who filmed this tonight, and also to Revel Cares. We're in their beautiful warehouse and in their beautiful space, and unfortunately, Sarah couldn't be here tonight. She got an opportunity to jet off and speak in Toronto, but she was very gracious in welcoming us into her space.